Welcome to the Operation Life podcast, where I'm going to be interviewing high-performance achievers who have commanded their purpose, passion, prosperity, and power. I'm your host, Ian Inman, and today we have this special opportunity to welcome my good friend, Erik Allen. Erik is the king of podcasting. He's a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, speaker, and John Maxwell Certified Coach. Welcome to the episode 1 Operation Life podcast, brother.
Oh, man, Ian, it's such an honor to be here, and thank you for the amazing introduction. I appreciate that, dude, and I'm just so excited. I'm so proud of you, dude, for launching this thing, going through my course, putting this thing together, and just calling you a friend is such an honor, man, and watching you grow over the last few years is amazing, and, man, I just got to throw that out there, dude. I'm proud of you, bro, and I'm so excited to be guest number 1 on your show, man.
Hey, man, you were literally the perfect person for this. Not only are you my podcast coach, so it was a perfect fit there. I was like, but dude, you and I have been working together for, 4 or 5 years now. So it was just an easy transition. You've seen my rise and fall, and then now you're about to see the rise again. So absolutely, man, happy to have you. So for those of you who don't know Erik, Erik was raised in a broken home, battled addictions, jailed at 18, bankrupt at 21, only to turn everything around. After 16 plus years sober, he now has a beautiful wife, 2 kids. He's a podcaster, speaker, and is helping entrepreneurs get known and noticed online. So Erik, what was it about, where you were at when you were younger that led you into wanting to help people get known and noticed online now? What was that transition period like?
For me, it was really a moment of being lost and not having any sort of direction with my life. I had gone through, like you said, the broken home, the jail, moved 21 times between ages of 18 and 21, bankrupted 21 years old, lots of concerts and being around rock stars for a year in the music business, right? And then being so depressed at working at Starbucks that I was drinking myself to sleep every night, That transition happened because one girl walked into that Starbucks store and had the courage to ask this guy that was standing behind the bar, hey, we've got a college-age event down at our church. Do you want to go? This girl doesn't drink coffee, but I was feeling like, no friends. I'm an addict. She's good looking. What time do I need to be there? Like, that's what's going through my head, right? And so I go to this church event. I think God's planting a seed in me in that moment. A month later, it was Easter 2004. Wake up after a night of partying, surrounded by 15 guys in my buddy's basement. And God's like, dude, you're going down this life that's going to you're going down this path that's going to end your life real quick if you don't start making some changes. And in that moment, I decided to give my life to Christ right there in my buddy's basement. I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking, cigarettes, everything in that moment. I said, God, I'm surrendering to you everything. Called that girl up, got her voicemail, said, hey, thanks for inviting me to that church event. Maybe I'll see you at the store sometime. And, well, me and her, we started dating a month later, and now we've been married for almost 18 years, man.
Let's go, man. Hey, did you ever go back and ask her, since you said she doesn't drink coffee, and dude, I've known you for 5 years, and I never caught that part of the story. Did you ever go back and ask her why she went in that Starbucks to begin with?
Yeah, so she would study. She was actually studying to be a pastor, and so she would come in and be studying for school. And she would drink passion iced tea that we had. It was, but she loves the smell of coffee. She just hates the taste of it. So she would go and hang around at the Starbucks. And I'd seen her in there before, but we hadn't really talked that much. And it was that one moment of courage that she had that invited me to this church event. And, for me, I've always told her since day one, man, like God sent you to be my angel that saved me from this life that I was going to be just destructing right in front of everybody.
That is phenomenal. So I want to transition that over to, man, you used to have the Top Rated MMA podcast. That was the first one that you started with, and then you transitioned over to now the Erik Allen Show. I saw that you were running both for a period of time, and now you're focusing heavily on the Erik Allen Show. For those of you who don't know, on the Erik Allen Show, he's had guests such as Ed Milet, David Meltzer, Brad Lee, Bedros Keuilian, Sean Whalen. Like, the list goes on. It would take me this whole episode just to list just the premium names that you have on this podcast, man. So first off, how is it that you're able to make that transition from top-rated MMA to now wanting to dive into the entrepreneur space? And what was it that attracted these top talent names into wanting to be on your show and even giving you that opportunity?
Yeah, man, it's a great question because I think if we go back to Top Rated MMA, it was really started as out of desperation. I had Top Rated MMA as an apparel company at first. Wasn't selling anything. I'm like, how can I keep this brand going? So I was like, I'm just going to ask fighters why they want to get in a cage and get punched in the face. Like, literally, that's why I started a podcast. I was in a walk-in closet, didn't know anything that I was doing. I was literally recording a video with bad cameras, bad lighting, bad microphone. Wasn't doing any editing, uploading to YouTube and calling it my podcast. And then someone's like, well, how can I listen to on Apple? And I said, what the hell is that? I didn't even know what Apple Podcast was, and so I started researching all that stuff and, figuring out how I can do that and get it uploaded and things like that. And the reason that I transitioned away from it was because I think it had a good run. I ran it from 2012 to 2021. And I ran that thing because I was really inspired by MMA fighters and their stories and things like that. But that same question that I ask MMA fighters, I started to wonder what entrepreneurs did. Meaning, I ask entrepreneurs, why do you want to get punched in the face and keep going? Because as entrepreneurs, there's a lot of guys out there and gals that as entrepreneurs, we're getting punched in the face all the time. We get no's, we get rejected, we fail all the time, but we keep going. Why do we want to keep going? So that was kind of the concept of maybe I should start an entrepreneur podcast. And really it was inspired because I came across Ed Milet by chance on YouTube. I didn't know who he was. I was like searching for a motivational video on YouTube and Ed popped up. And I was like, who's this guy? Values and beliefs are aligning with me. And I just was sucked in, dude. I went back to his very first video and watched every single one moving forward. And I decided that that's where my passion was on the entrepreneurship and the success mindset, things like that. And so, yeah, ran Top Rated MMA till the end of 2021. And I was doing both shows, like you said, from 2019 till 2021. So 2 years, I was releasing 2 shows a week. And I wouldn't say I was getting burnt out, but I was really feeling like, man, I'm not able to fully focus on the business and entrepreneurship side of stuff if I'm still running Top Rated MMA. And I'm really passionate about business stuff. So I said, I think it's time to make that transition. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. It actually lightened my load quite a bit, but then it also puts more pressure on me to start having higher quality shows. And when you talk about how did Ed and Sean come on my show, it's because I had the courage to ask. A lot of people don't ask people for the sale. They don't ask for people to come on their show. I literally had no show when I asked Sean Whalen. Sean Whalen was like my 6th guest. And then Ed Milet was episode 12. Like, just people need to ask. If you want to get the bigger names on your show, don't send them a templated email and like just change the name at the top, right? You've got to be personal. You've got to sit there and figure out what they're talking about recently and talk to them about that when you're pitching them. Me personally, I pull out my phone, dude. It's a 30-second video. That's all I do. Ed, what's going on? It's Erik out in Coeur d'Alene. I know you live out here in Coeur d'Alene as well. You just released the book of Power of One More, and it is an amazing book. Let me help you promote that on my podcast. Let's go. 30 seconds. Send that to them. DM, Instagram. I book 99% of my guests through that same method every time.
Dude, that is such a golden nugget. For those of you listening, if you don't do that, you're going to fall behind. You are going to get crushed, and that's what makes Erik the king of podcasting. I keep saying it, man, like you are dominating it. So you have someone who wants to start a podcast. What is the first series of steps that you would say to them where they come to you and they go, hey, man, I don't really have a whole lot of skills, but I might be passionate about this subject. So what steps do I even need to take into turning this into a podcast?
Man, there's so much easy access to starting a podcast nowadays, and you can do it for free. I ran my show on Anchor for the first 4 years of my show, and 5 years. It's free to sign up for Anchor. And here's what I say about podcasts. I think everybody should have a podcast, whether you're having a guest on that you're interviewing or you're just doing a solo show. It's therapy, man, to talk and release and get your story out there. But it's also impactful when you're talking about things that you're passionate about. So if your purpose is, man, I want to make amazing quilts, right? There's people out there that love quilting that are going to fall in love with your show. Like if it's about stamp collecting, man, talk about that. If it's podcasting, talk about that. That's going to attract the right people. You know, one of the things that I say on a daily affirmation is I'm always in the right place at the right time. And if you want to start a podcast, literally you just go to Anchor FM or anchor.com or whatever the URL, I think it's anchor.com. You can start it for free, but there's other hosts and stuff like that. But for me, that's where I started, man. Anchor.com was the easiest thing. And so if you want to start a podcast, you just do it. Don't sit there and like wait for everything to be perfect or to know everything. Like I said, I started this thing, didn't even know what I was doing, and just started in a podcast, walk-in closet. If you want to start a podcast, go do it. Just start talking. And the more that you do it, you'll get more comfortable. You'll get more better quality shows. I mean, I look back at the first couple 20 episodes that I did probably, and I was like, what was I thinking, man? Like, seriously, don't let that perfectionness holds you back from just moving forward. You've got to step through that fear, and you've got to just start talking and just do it. Release it. I don't care if it's audio or video or both. If you want to start a podcast, step into that fear, and man, just know that you can talk about what you're passionate about. There's no one else that knows what you're passionate about more than yourself. Start talking about that, and people will be attracted to that. Be confident in yourself. Man, launch that thing and kick some butt, dude.
Man, I absolutely love that. And so I want to transition that over to getting the John Maxwell certification. So what was that transition period like where you're like, okay, top-rated MMA is now, you're like, hey, I'm done with that. I'm doing the Erik Allen show. For those of you who don't know, he's also co-founder of Operation Life. So let's go, life and business coaching. But with that, so you were pursuing the John Maxwell certification. What was it about that was attractive to you, and why did you choose that specific certification?
Yeah, for me, it was a goal of mine in 2022 to be a coach and not just call myself a coach. I wanted to go through an actual certification of somebody out there that is already doing the life or living the life that I wanted to live. And I did a lot of research. There's Tony Robbins, there's John Gordon, there's, tons of different coaching certifications that you can get. The reason that I chose John Maxwell is because his values and his beliefs aligned with mine. And the books that he writes are extremely well written. They're entertaining, but I suck them in, man. When I'm reading them, I'm like a sponge. I'm like, dude, what is he going to say next? And he just writes it so easy. The fact that he came from a pastoral background, he was a pastor for many, many years. He started writing these books as a Christian book, and people that were not Christians started buying books more than the Christians. So he was like, wait a second here. I can make an impact of Jesus on the world by writing these leadership books, and I'm just going to do that. And now he's sold 35 million books in his life, man. He's written almost 100 books. Like, that's what made me go, that guy in his 70s, still writing books, still changing lives. I want to do what he's doing. And so I was attracted to that. And so that's why I went in all in. I talked to my wife. I'm like, because it costs money to invest in yourself. It costs money to invest in whatever program that you want. But it was a few $1,000s for me to go and sign up and get everything done and get into this thing, right? So I talked to my wife. I'm like, look, this is what I really want to do. We had a conversation about it. I borrowed some money from my own savings, from our own savings to pay for it. And now I'm paying it back. But like, you have to take that step forward and invest in yourself sometimes. I'm not a big proponent of going into debt. I have zero debt. But if you have money in savings and you can borrow from that to invest in yourself, man, do that. But I say, don't go broke trying to get a certification. But the reason I went with John Maxwell is because, man, that guy, his values and his beliefs align with mine. And I wanted to be able to present his business concepts and his books out in my own training.
Man, I freaking love that. And so here's the thing too is, dude, we've got Udemy and we've got YouTube. Udemy is what, $25 a course, and YouTube's free. And that's the piece where when I was getting started in the web design and development space, like 6 years ago now, dude, I was like, okay, cool. I'm completely certified for like $40-50. And so everyone's like, oh, well, I have to go to college and get this, $200,000 degree in this, or I have to go and I have to get this, certain certification that's a $10,000 certification, where it's like, no, in the early stages, you don't even know if you're going to like that. And we're going to get into this here in a minute. Those are the 4 questions I was really talking about earlier. The purpose, passion, prosperity, power. You just blew that door open for us to start diving into that.
Nice.
But it's being able to take that step and be like, hey, I think this might be my purpose. I think this might be something I'm going to be passionate about. And so it's just being able to take that, maybe $20, $50, $100, throw that in there, and then all of a sudden be like, okay, cool. This is something that I want to do. Or the flip side is, like you said, hire a coach. And that coach is going to be able to come in and show you, hey, here's how I did it. And not all coaches are going to be good. I can't even tell you how many times I've paid for coaches and they were these gurus online that ended up fizzing out. And that was super frustrating. But after trialing and erroring, I'm like, cool, I've got my 5 people now that are in my corner. You are one of them as my podcast coach. And so it's like I have people who are specialized in these certain areas. And that is so critical in order to set the life up how you want it. So I love that, man.
Absolutely.
So speaking of purpose, so how did you discover and pursue your purpose in life?
Man, a lot of failure. I failed a lot of times, and I think I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit in me. I started mowing lawns at 10 years old. And I was literally like, people think I'm joking, but I literally had to push this lawnmower uphill a mile to get to my furthest client. And then I'd work my way back. And it was a massive hill, dude. So here I am, this tiny little kid pushing this lawnmower up the street. And man, that's where it started. I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. But here's the thing is my purpose was found by trying a lot of different things. And sometimes it was bad, meaning I had shiny object syndrome. So I was going off, oh, this is going to make me money. Oh, this is going to make me money. Oh, I can go do this, and it's going to get me retired by the time I'm 28 years old, and, all this stuff. I tried a lot of stuff, but nothing ever fulfilled that emotion in me that said, this is what you're supposed to be doing, until I started podcasting. For me, once I had that first conversation with an MMA fighter and asked him, why do you want to get punched in the face? I knew from that moment on that was something I wanted to to perfect my craft at and start pursuing that. And the more that I did it, the more hungry that I got about wanting to know more. I'm fascinated with people's stories, man. And so when I have entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people on my show, I want people to tell me, what are they doing now? What do they do to get to there? And what do they have coming up? And the question that I ask all of my guests, and sometimes it puts in some really uncomfortable positions right at the beginning, is tell me about your childhood and where did you grow up? Because I want the listeners to understand that people that are on my show, no matter how big they are, multimillionaires or not, they all had a childhood, whether good or bad, and then they decided to take some action and get to where they're at today. Mm-hmm. And so, man, I found my purpose by trying a lot of stuff and failing a lot. And failing is not a bad thing, man. You learn your lesson in that. Everybody fails. There's not one entrepreneur in this world that didn't fail multiple times over, losing tons of money. But they came and back because they got punched in the face and they knew that they can get through it and they kept going. David Meltzer, man, one of my favorite guests on my show, lost over $100 million. Had to go live in this tiny apartment, him and his wife, after he had been this massive mansion, and now he's built himself back up, man. I love those stories. That's why I do what I do. That's why I podcast, man.
Dude, I love that. So, one of the things, too, that we've said a couple of times on the show is, so you said earlier, I started with top-rated MMA because I wanted to know how people got punched in the face, transitioned over to the Erik Allen show because, again, I wanted to know how entrepreneurs are dealing with getting punched in the face. You talked about how John Maxwell was supposed to be, a pastor who was writing these books to Christians. Then all of a sudden it was non-Christians that ended up buying all of these books, and he found that transition. And I think that's so important when we're talking about purpose in life, is understanding that where you're at right now isn't where you're going to be. And so it's not saying, hey, this is my life's calling, my life's purpose, but this is more of a season that I'm in right here and right now. And so I'm going to say yes to this mission, this season, and be able to make that transition and just understand it's a flow. I don't have to do this for 50 years, but I know I'm going to dedicate at least 5 years to this, at least 3 years to this. And, as Craig Siegel says, man, I'm all in on this. And whenever that transition happens, it happens. That was one of the toughest lessons I had to learn in entrepreneurship in the early days was that shiny object syndrome. Is people who go, I was one of them who would go hey, this is my purpose. This is what I want to do. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you see something shiny and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I'm going to transition over to that. And you never actually get off the ground because you just keep choosing new planes to be like, oh, which one do I want to go fly?
Yeah.
So it'd be phenomenal. So with leading into passion now, have you always been passionate about podcasting, or was this something that you evolved into after you found out that it was actually your purpose in life?
Man, it wasn't anything that I was passionate about. But I'll say this, before podcasting even started for me, when I first gave my life to Christ, I had to change my environment. I couldn't hang around the people that I was partying with. I had to make a change mentally. And so if I wanted to do that, I had to pivot away from all of that, right? I had to change the environment that I was in. So what I did pre-podcasting days, I would find guys in this church that I just started going to that had successful marriages. They had great businesses. They were great entrepreneurs. They had great walks with Christ. And I would take them out to Starbucks and I would podcast, quote unquote, interview them from the Starbucks and be like, dude, tell me about your story. What are you doing today that got you where you're at? I want to know because I want to know how I can do it in my life. And so I think I've always had this fascination with people's stories, but I also know that there's people that are living the life that I want to live that have done it before me. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I need to go and talk with these guys and go, man, what did you do to get there? Okay, I'm taking notes. I'm going to do that. Right? I didn't always have this passion for podcasting, but I've always had this passion for understanding how things work and understanding how people do and accomplish things. You know, when I was on Brad Lee's Dropping Bombs podcast, he said, look, do people need to work hard? And I said, and his idea of working hard was slightly different, but it's not like, he goes, look, you can be out there and doing construction and all of that stuff. That's hard work. He goes, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not really that hard. You just go find people that are living the life that you want to live, and you do what they do. And you make your own tweaks of your personality and your purpose and your passion, things like that. He goes, but it's not that hard to be an entrepreneur. You just do what other people are doing that are doing the thing that you want to do. And man, I think that's where my passion comes from, is just the fascination of people's stories. And maybe it's because of my old childhood trauma that I'm like, dude, I want to know who else went through this, or I want to know like who didn't have to go through that stuff, man. Like I want to understand that stuff. So that's where my passion and my purpose comes from, man.
Dude, love that. And so with that, what is your definition of success?
Man, for me, success is breaking the chains of addiction, abuse, rejection, divorce, you know, and changing the life of my kids, like literally changing the legacy and the Allen tribe for generations to come. My kids will never experience addiction, abuse, rejection, divorce. They just won't. My wife and I, when we said I do, we meant it. And we've been married for almost 18 years. I'm telling you right now, not every year is going to be rainbows and sunshine. There's going to be times when you feel like you're roommates and you're just living this life. But you stick together and you get through it. Our kids see us disagree. They see us argue. They see us slow dance in the kitchen. They see us make up. They see us kiss. And right, they see it all. Now, like, there's definitely conversations that we don't have in front of them, but they do see us get in disagreements, but they see us make up. They know from day one that we will not be getting a divorce. Success for me is breaking the chains. It's not about money. It's not about, I mean, yes, impact is great, but I want to impact my personal family first, and then I want to start spreading the word, right? Like, I don't want my kids to have to go through the divorce situation that I did, or my wife had to go through. Our parents have been married and divorced 3, 4, 5, 6 times, man. Like, it's stupid. When we said I do, we hold ourselves accountable and we commit to the word that we say that we're going to do, man. And we don't break that. And so that, to me, is success.
Man, it's almost like when Ed Milet calls it the one. You know, are you going to be the one in your family that breaks that chain? And,
totally.
You know, when I first heard that, when my mindset was wrapped around money and, you know, oh, I'm pursuing, you know, all I want is money. I don't care about relationships. When I was in that mindset, I was always thinking I'm going to be the one who is going to be, you know, outdo my dad. I'm going to make more than he did. And it's interesting seeing how my heart posture shifted now to where I care about relationships and people, of seeing that, okay, well, you know, the one in my family, my mom's entire side of the family was alcoholics, including my mom. And so alcohol destroyed our side of the family. And so I was like, you know what? I'm declaring it. I'm going to be the one that breaks that generational curse. And so it's understanding that there are going to be problems in all of our families, but you need to be the one that breaks whatever that generational curse is for you. And that's going to open up a door for your kids and all future generations. Like, you have the power to stop that.
Yes.
And so, are you currently living your definition of success, or are you, pursuing it, or where exactly are you right now on that definition?
Yeah, man. Right now I would say I'm in a success season of life, man. You know, my wife and I are in a great spot. You know, we're living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We're away from family. We purposely moved to Idaho because we didn't want people to just be like, hey, I was in the neighborhood, right? Like, so nobody that we didn't want in our life, like, no one's near us. We don't have family. We came to Idaho to start afresh, man. When we came to Idaho, my son was literally 1 day and 1 year old. And he's only known Idaho, but we didn't know anybody when we came out here. And we just said, we're starting fresh. This is where we're planting our seed, and this is where we're going to plant our feet and start building out the Allen tribe from here. And I would say that we are living in the success. Now, is there things that I want to do? Do I want to buy property? Heck yeah, dude. I want to be able to pee off my front porch and not have the cops call on me, right? Like, that's what I'm pursuing, right, on top of it. But success-wise, man, we're feeling great. Like, families together. We're not addicted to anything. There's no abuse going on. Like, we're not getting a divorce. My kids, they love the Lord. We've been able to, we go to church as a family. We read together as a family. Man, it's like amazing stuff. I feel like I'm like the highest of high right now with my family. And there's only more to come. There's no ceiling on this thing, man. And so I'm fired up every day when I wake up. Like, it's a goal of mine to wake up. And so if I open my eyes, I'm like, man, thank you, Jesus, for another day to see and hug and hold my family. And then I make my bed and there's 2 wins in 15 seconds. Just a quick tip there on how to stack wins. 2 wins, 15 seconds. Just be thankful and grateful, man.
Wow. So freaking good, man. So where do you draw that source of power? Where do you get the strength to be able to stay in your purpose, stay passionate? Because there are those days that we fizzle out and we're like, hey, you know what? I'm just not feeling it today. I know we all experience that, or maybe it's imposter syndrome or whatever it is that you're struggling with. Where do you find your strength and that source of power to be able to overcome that?
Dude, you got to set high values and high standards for yourself. Always. It's not every day that I want to wake up at 4 a.m. There's definitely days where I stay up late in that I don't even make it to my alarm typically. I usually wake up like 3:45 to 3:50. My alarm's set for 4. But there's days where I'm like, crap, I want to sleep in. But it's my standards and the values that I put on myself that make me get up. And so that power that I draw, man, it's that moment where I open my eyes. Literally for me, it's about being grateful. If I'm not grateful each day, then life's going to suck, man. I could be living in a cardboard box with my family and I would be grateful. Now, it would be cold and would suck and we'd get out of that. But what I'm saying is I'm alive because there's a purpose and a plan in my life still that needs to be fulfilled. And for me, when I wake up, man, it's about being grateful. And that power that I draw, one, my wife motivates me more than anybody. Like, she has been through the ringer in life, man. But she's the greatest mom. She's the greatest wife. So that's number, she's a big motivator for me. But man, for me, it's about Jesus. Jesus is the reason that I'm here today. God took me out of a craziness hole in my life and said, man, nope, your plan is here. And he started to open up doors of opportunity. And I just had to pivot from the yuckiness that I had to the opportunities. And once I did that, it was like everything was aligning. And so for me, when I wake up, I'm thankful immediately. Man, thank you, Jesus, for another day to see and hug and hold my family. But when I get up to my office, man, for me, it's turning on worship. It's spending time in prayer. It's being grateful. My prayers are very grateful driven, man. Man, I'm debt free. Thank you for a house over my, I have a roof over my head. I have a great job. I have a great family. I get to podcast. I get to have amazing relationships with people. That is where I draw my source from, man. That's where I draw that power from, man. It's about, I just have to go, man. God, I was going down a path that was going to end my life. I had no direction. I didn't even think I would live to be 40 years old. I'll be 43 next month. And I'm going, man, here I am, God. You've got a plan for me. Let's rock and roll, dude.
Wow. Bro, you got to save some room. This is only episode 1.
So
you're over here I'm gonna steal
up.
Brad Lee, dropping all these bombs, bro. Like, how is anyone supposed to compete with this?
Sorry, man. I just get fired up, bro.
Episode. All right, man. So that's all the questions I've got for this show, and I don't even feel like we can fit any more in. This is one that you're going to have to listen to 3, 4, 5 times just to be like, hold on, what did he say in the beginning? So where can everybody find you online, bro?
ErikAllenMedia.com. It's ErikAllen media.com. I'm big on Instagram, and I don't say I'm big because I got thousands of followers, but I that's my main source of social media, I guess, is Instagram. I respond to every comment, every DM on there, and absolutely would love subscribe on my YouTube channel. It's just ErikAllenMedia.com. Those are the main places that you'll find me online.
Awesome. And then just final do-outs is I've got some services I'm going to shout out for you. So for those of you who absolutely love Erik like I do, and you're like, how do I do business with this guy? So he has an online course for starting and growing a podcast. So if that's something that listening to this show, when he was hyping you up saying, shut up and do it, my phrasing, not his, then that's where you're going to go on there, buy that course, and have this man teach you. Because I'm telling you, I personally paid full price for the course because I love it. I love what you're doing. And dude, that course is why I started this with episode 1, and I'm even doing this. So thank you. He's got sponsorship opportunities. So if you're a business or a brand, loves Erik and says, hey, I want to do business with you, you can pay to be on his show. He has different tiered packages. He's also a life and business coach through Operation Life with me. So we would love to have you a part of our community. We're helping men turn trials into triumphs. And our main thing is purpose, passion, prosperity, and power. We'll help get you there. And then lastly, he also is a content creator and does box opening and product videos. So if any of that applies to you, find Erik at erikallenmedia.com or on social media. And, dude, thank you so much for being here on episode 1. Seriously appreciate you.
Such an honor to be here, man. I'm so proud of you to watch you grow over the last few years and to launch this thing finally. Man, I'm so pumped up for you. This is going to change lives. I appreciate you, man.